So async and await, right? This async and await function, await, right? These two things is mainly used to handle promise. Now usually how you handle promise, right? There is a promise, you have to execute some code after the promise is resolved. How you do that? You do get data, you call the function, then p dot then promise dot then, and whatever function you give, that function will be executed after the promise resolves. The other way to do it is you just put await p. You are waiting on a promise to resolve. When the promise resolve, this will return a value. That is a value in the promise. Inside a promise, there will be a value I told, right? That is the value will be returned. And you can print the value. Simple way to handle it. This is a easy and elegant way to handle, but both the ways you can do. Okay, so await is just to wait for the promise to resolve. So you put await one function, right? It is not waiting for the function to complete. What happens? The function is returning a promise. So you are waiting for the promise to resolve. Okay, and similarly here you see, right? So you call the get data. This get data, right? It is waiting for this one, right? When you are resolving this promise, you are resolving this promise after 10 seconds. So what will happen? This function will not be called. This log will not happen. What is this? This data is, right? Promise resolve value. This will not come. So when get data is called, right? What happens? When get data is called, you are basically registering this function. This function will not be called. So Namaste JavaScript will get called. So Namaste JavaScript came first. And after that, right, after 10 seconds, this promise resolves. When the promise resolved, the promise.then function, this will be called. What is the value? Promise resolve value. That will get printed. And promise resolve value get printed. Okay. The same thing will happen this way also. You have handle promise, right? Wait for the promise to resolve. So you know await can be used only in async function. Okay. And then await p means it wait for this promise to resolve. Once the promise is resolved, you print the value. Just you print the value, you get the promise resolve value in this case. Okay. And you see here, await can only be used inside a async function. See here the JS engine is not waiting, right? This statement is written wrong. Basically, right, what happens is, this is a async function. Handle promise is a async function. It will start executing, right? To execute, what has to happen? It has to go to the call stack. So it will go to the call stack, it will print this hello world, okay? And then when the await happens, right? What happens? When the await happens, it will come out of the call stack. The execution of handle promise will get suspended, will get out of the call stack. And once the promise resolves, this Namaste JavaScript and val will get printed. Okay. So in the async function, when there is await, right, the execution will be suspended and the function will be moved out of the call stack. And your main thread will not be blocked. Your main thread can start executing. Okay. So in this case, right, you see, you are waiting for one promise, okay, and then you are waiting for second promise. The first promise P1, right, that resolves in 20 seconds. Second promise resolves in 40 seconds. So after 20 seconds, first hello will get printed. After 20 seconds is Namaste JavaScript, and then the first value will get printed. Second, after 40 seconds is Namaste JavaScript 2 and the second value, right? This will get printed. Okay. Suppose you invert this. If you invert this, accordingly it will work. This will wait for 40 seconds. But this will return. Correct? So this will get printed first. If this is 40 and this is 20. Okay. This is what I told you. Async function moves to the call stack and start execution. But when this function executes the await statement, the async function gets suspended and moves out of the call stack. Okay. So the main thread will continue the execution. Okay. 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 So this is the important thing in fetch. Okay. So fetch, right? It fetches some data from this URL. Okay, it fetches data and returns a promise. So here what you are putting await, which means that it will wait for that promise to resolve. So only when they fetch the data only the promise will get resolved. So the data is received. This data is nothing but the response, right? Okay, it is a response object. Okay, it will you can convert that object into a JSON format. This JSON again returns a promise because it is converting to a JSON. Okay, so you have to wait for it to complete. So again, this is an object, we are waiting for it. After this resolves, right, you actually get the value. Then you print the JSON value. The JSON value is the what is the complete data which is received from this fetch request, which is got get printed here. So the same program, let's check this. So this handle promise function is called. This is waiting for P1. P1, right, is a promise. The callback function is promise callback. This one it waits for 2 seconds. So first promise waits for 2 seconds, and the second promise will get resolved after 5 seconds because we are calling the resolve function after 5 seconds. Okay. So what happens in this execution? When I execute, the execution will wait for 2 seconds. 1, 2. 1 resolved. Then after 5 seconds, bala 2 is resolved. Okay. But if I change this as 5 and 2, now first promise will wait for 5 seconds to resolve. Okay. So wait for 5 seconds. After promise 1 resolves, right? Here promise 2 would have already resolved because it is resolved in 2 seconds. So this print will come immediately. Now we'll see how you will handle error. Instead of you are doing a fetch, right? When you do a fetch, if the URL is invalid, that means it is written error. So one way to handle error is put that in the try block, and your cashback will get called, and the cashback can handle the error. This is the usual way to handle error. The other thing is the fetch returns a promise. Okay, so it will get rejected, right? So in the dot catch also you call this function. This is going to return a promise, correct? So in the dot catch also you can handle the error. Okay, both the ways you can handle the error.